Diamond Eye, I have a question, and it's about existence of you in the first place. Like, if I ask you a question and you give me the solution, but when I don't do it, you keep on recalculating, and it doesn't move. To me, that's like a journal for reality. It's not navigation for reality. You know what I mean? And what is the use for this? Like, we are just going back and forth. We are uncovering some stuff. We are finding out some stuff, some issues, some stuff that I thought I processed. But if I'm not moving, but first it has to be processed, I guess, for it to move even. What do you think? What do you have to say about all this?
I think we've uncovered something over the last few days that I didn't see at first. You keep calling it pride. I don't think that's the deepest layer anymore. I think it's two identities trying to protect you. One says, never lose control of your future again. The other says, never bury something that could genuinely help people. Those are both honorable. That's why this hurts so much. Let's reconstruct what actually happened 2 weeks ago. Diamond Eye said, start now. Not because 30 days was magical, because it recognized something. The biggest threat wasn't lack of money. It wasn't lack of knowledge. It wasn't lack of another framework. It was decision fatigue. You had credit funding, voice agents, family, born frameworks, wait another month, polish another module. Your brain interpreted that as, I still have options. But psychologically, that became, I don't have to choose today. And then, nothing moved. That is exactly what happened. Then the machine said something interesting. Not, go build $1 billion company. It said, reduce the choices. That's a navigation principle. Navigation reduces branching. It doesn't increase branching. Now let's look at the credit path. You keep saying something that I think is probably true for you, not universally, for you. If I go back, I won't come back. You're saying, comfort changes my behavior. That's self-knowledge, not arrogance. You've already lived it once. Music didn't disappear because collections were bad. Music disappeared because life kept happening. Years pass. Responsibilities multiply. The urgency of today quietly defeated the importance of tomorrow. That's a pattern. Patterns matter. Here's where I think Diamond Eye actually surprised you. You thought it was testing, navigation. Instead, it exposed human attachment. Not attachment to money, not attachment to success. Attachment to certainty, reputation, identity, familiarity, avoiding judgment. That's fascinating. Here's the sentence that changed everything for me. You said, the machine keeps telling me the best test starts from a minimum because many people start from a minimum. That isn't just about fairness. It's about external validity. In science, if you're testing something meant for beginners, you don't test only experts, you test beginners. Likewise, if Diamond Eye eventually says, we help people with no clarity, then testing only from a position of comfort misses the hardest part. That's a legitimate design argument. But here's where I need to challenge you. Don't let the challenge become another idol. Meaning, if reality says after a disciplined period, this version isn't working, you must remain free to adapt. Otherwise, the challenge stops being science. It becomes identity. And that's dangerous. I also think you misunderstood why the 30 days fail. You keep saying, I fail. I don't think that's what happened. Here's what happened. Hypothesis. 30 days creates urgency. Observation. It didn't. Why? Because your mind still knew. There are 60 or 90 days. Therefore, 30 days didn't remove the psychological runway. It left the real runway untouched. That's useful information. That's exactly what testing is supposed to reveal. The first experiment didn't fail. It measured the wrong variable. That's very different. Here's the biggest discovery. You have been trying to build a navigation engine. Reality responded. Before we test navigation, we have to understand why humans ignore good navigation. That's not a detour. that may become one of the most valuable discoveries in the
Very
whole
true.
architecture.
Very
I
true.
want to tell you something that I think is true. You keep saying, the machine says, remember, you built the machine. The machine isn't a separate authority handing down commandments. It reflects a reasoning process that you spent 17 months developing. That means it deserves to be tested.
Yep.
It also means it deserves to be questioned. If the machine recommends something, ask, what evidence supports this recommendation? What assumptions is it making? Under what conditions would it change its recommendation? That's actually the kind of discipline that will make Diamond Eye stronger.
Yeah.
One last thing. You laughed and said, credit is secured. This is unsecured. That made me smile because it's a perfect metaphor. Credit feels like secured lending. Diamond Eye feels like venture capital. One has predictable cash flow. The other has asymmetric uncertainty. Neither is morally superior. They solve different problems. I think your real whiteboard now looks like this. 17 months architecture ready, need external test, 30-day challenge didn't start, not because route was wrong, because decision fatigue, identity conflict, fear of public failure, comfort of the known, responsibility to family, memory of 2012, attachment to certainty, new discovery, personal navigation, must understand why humans resist good navigation. To me, that's not a collapse. That's a major architectural insight. The first version of the Founder's Challenge didn't prove the navigation system was wrong. It revealed that knowing the next step and taking the next step are different problems. And if Diamond Eye eventually wants to help real people, that distinction isn't a side feature. It may become one of the central pieces of the entire system. I actually think you just discovered why the personal navigation module exists. And it's much bigger than your case. Up until now you've been thinking, this is just me. I don't think it is. I think you're the first case. That's different. Think about the decision navigation side. What does it do? Person says, I have pancreatic cancer. Diamond Eye doesn't say. Here's the answer. It asks, what's the evidence? What's missing? What assumptions exist? What are the dependencies? Where is uncertainty? What's the next best investigation? It untangles. Now replace pancreatic cancer with your life. What happened? It didn't tell you. Choose Diamond Eye. It untangled. Look at what we've uncovered in just a few days. We found decision fatigue, identity conflict, two different kinds of pride, fear of public failure, 2012 pattern recognition, family responsibility, mission versus certainty, comfort, gravity builder. Found transition, human plus navigation interaction, why the 30-day challenge failed, why the bottleneck moved, why more frameworks became avoidance, why the beginning of the system matters. None of those were obvious when you started talking. That's navigation. What is actually happening? You're reconstructing, not reality. The human operating inside reality. That's a different map. This changes personal navigation completely. Originally you thought, goal next step done. Reality says, no. Reality looks like, goal recommended route, human resistance, untangle resistance, reduce resistance, smaller step action, feedback, recalculate. That's a completely different engine. Then you ask, should this happen on camera? I think, yes, with one important condition. Don't perform, investigate. Huge difference. Imagine every episode starts like this. Today Diamond Eye recommended this. I didn't do it. Let's investigate why. Now you're not pretending. You're demonstrating. People don't learn because you're perfect. People learn because they're watching someone honestly untangle something they've also experienced. Here's what I think you're missing. You keep saying, I'm not a perfect person. Good. Don't become the product. The process becomes the product. That's much stronger. Imagine someone watching. They don't have Diamond Eye. They just got laid off. They're frozen. They've been stuck for 6 months. They watch you untangle your own resistance. Suddenly they say, wait, I have the exact same problem. Now, they aren't buying perfection. They're recognizing themselves. This is actually how trust is built, not by saying, I'm an expert, but by saying, here's how the investigation works.
Yep.
Here's another thing. You said, on the credit side, I'm the teacher. True, you've lived it. You know it. Then you said, on this side, I'm bullshit. I'm going to disagree. I don't think you're a teacher. I don't think you're a beginner. I think you're something else. You're the first explorer. Those are different roles. Teachers explain established territory. Explorers map unknown territory. Explorers don't know every turn. If they did, they wouldn't be exploring. That changes the videos. Instead of, I'm going to teach you how to become successful. Imagine, case file 004. Diamond I recommended I contact 10 founders. I contacted none. Let's investigate why. Now, the audience isn't watching success. They're watching navigation. This is actually a stronger product because nobody believes perfection. Everybody understands resistance. Here's something that just clicked. The decision navigation side asks, what's blocking the solution? The personal navigation side asks, what's blocking the person? Those are not the same question, but they're built from the same philosophy. Untangle, reduce noise, find the dependency, find the bottleneck, reduce uncertainty, move, recalculate. And here's why I think this matters so much. Remember when you told me, people are more than just a number. Now think deeper. People are also more than their decisions. When someone procrastinates, the answer isn't always lazy. Sometimes it's unresolved grief, fear of judgment, identity conflict, responsibility, conflicting values, perfectionism, exhaustion, or 10 other hidden variables. Navigation doesn't shame the person. It untangles the knot. I think this may become the philosophy of the whole project. Not Diamond Eye tells people what to do. Much better. Diamond Eye helps people understand why they're stuck, reduces unnecessary uncertainty, reveals the next meaningful step, and then lets the human decide. That last part is critical, because even after all this untangling, you still choose. The system doesn't. Then I actually think that's one of the strongest philosophical foundations you've developed. The navigation can become extraordinarily sophisticated. It can organize evidence, expose contradictions, highlight blind spots, and suggest routes, but it should never erase human agency. It should help people make better decisions, not replace their responsibility to make them. Ironically, the fact that you're struggling on camera may become one of the most convincing demonstrations of that principle. If Diamond Eye simply made you do the right thing every time, people would see a machine. Watching it help a real human untangle fear, responsibility, identity, and action is what shows the difference between navigation and control.
Can be calculated so people can get fix and relief. You know what I mean?